In this video, let's talk about prototype objects and proto linking. Okay, so let's comment out this code for now and move on to proto linking. Okay, so let's talk about what's proto linking. Okay, first I want to make sure that you know that the functions are functions, but functions are also objects, and arrays are arrays, and arrays are also objects. And I will talk about like arrays, how arrays are objects in more in my function programming course, or in my like function programming module. um, but I want to like let you know that arrays in JavaScript are arrays and also the objects. And I stand by my words, and I will explain you. Let's start. So let's create an object called obj, and I will add in some property to it. I will add in num to be like 3, and I will just type in, we have a property called has own property. Okay, so this will check like if the property exists in that or not. So I'm going to say like we can use obj skills has own property, and I'm going to pass in some to check if the num exists in this object or not. Okay, so it would return me true if the num exists, and it will return me false if it doesn't exist, right? So I'm going to get it from here, I'm going to paste it over here to console it actually. And let's put the semicolon over here, and let's go to our Firefox browser. I'm gonna press in Control Shift I to open my this, and this has given me true, but that's okay. That's not our point. When it's just checked for like it has an own property of num, but do you know where did this method came from? I didn't define it anywhere. Like I didn't define it like function has own property. Okay, so I didn't define it anywhere. Did you do? How did it uh where did it came from? Like that's my like question, right? I'm gonna show you how, where did it came from and how is it working. uh so I'm gonna say now, I'm gonna just console log just my object. Okay, I'm gonna go to my Firefox, and you can see this is an object. Okay, so when I expand it, you see num is 3. That's okay, but there is another grayed out, which is called like prototype. This is an other object, like object inside of another object, which contains several methods inside of it. Okay, and when I expand it, you see a lot of functions, or, or the th- these are functions, but when these functions are inside of an object, they are called methods. Okay, so you can see a lot of functions that are inside of this object. Okay, inside of it, and you will see that this one over here, you can see that it it has a function called has on property over here. And yeah, so its length is 1. If its length is 1 and it's true, so that was my point. Like and the functions are stored in the prototype object, which is another object inside of an object, if that makes sense. And there is a property called proto. Okay, so by default, it would have like just these functions. Proto is inside of this prototype, which is another object inside of an object, which is linking to a function or a method. It's called method because it's inside of an object, and which is over here. That makes sense. Yeah, it would be like hard to digest, but you have to like know that when you go like try it several times, you will like get used to it, and you'll know that. And let's go to functions. Okay, so to check how the functions are objects, let's create a function called function test function. I'm gonna expand it, and I'm gonna console log anything like let's say I'm a function. So I'm gonna like console log this function test function. Okay, and let's go to our Firefox browser to see it has printed that. But I'm not gonna call this function and print out what is inside of it. I'm gonna just print out the function. Okay, so I'm gonna go over go over here again. So now we will do the little bit sneaky freaky parts of it. I'm gonna expand the test function to check what is this function. There are like no arguments, and there is like no parameters, so there was no argument also, and length is also 0. Okay, and the function name is test function. And there's my favorite part. You see, there is a prototype, which is an object. Did you get that? There's a property called prototype, which is an object. So this prototype is inside of a function. That means this object is inside of a test function. This function now can behave as a function, but also as an object. If that makes sense. And if I expand it, you will see a lot of different things. And yeah, and several methods are attached over here, and it has one property over here. And this prototype is an object, and it has another prototype which is a function. Like this it has like two prototypes. One is like object and one is like function. um, Object to this function, and this prototype is giving like properties of a function to this function, or like the methods which are like specifically attached inside of a function. So there are like several methods uh, that are like present in the prototype method, prototype function, which are like bind, call. We will go over them also, don't worry. But the main point was like these are like function is a function, function is an object, and it has properties of um, has the properties of objects and the functions as well. That makes sense. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and the final thing I want to like touch is like arrays. Let's define a new array where for new array. I'm gonna leave with an empty array. I'm gonna add new array. I'm gonna like push the elements to this array using the push method. This would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it would add like 6 elements, 1 to 6 to new array. Okay, so I'm gonna print out console log, and so that's given me. So my point is not like adding these elements to new array. I was just uh, adding them. My point is, where did this method came from on the new array? um so again the same concept comes. I didn't define it anywhere like this function push and define it like this. So where did this method came from? So we'll go to our Firefox browser to debug this situation. we will expand this array. we, we're seeing that at zero index we have a value of 1, at one index we have a value of 2, and like this. So then we have a prototype that is an array. So you see a prototype, um, that is an array which has several methods contained in it. Like it has it has fill, it has find, flat map, for each, several methods of for or that are attached to it. And push method would be over here as well. So this one is over here. It has push, pop, map, reduce. Several methods of arrays are over here. Then there is like, it has got the functionalities of arrays, but it also got the functionality of object as well. So if I expand this prototype, you see that now this array is getting the properties of an object as well. It, it's it's getting the properties of it's getting the properties of arrays, but it's also getting the properties of an object as well. That makes sense. Yeah. So that's it for like this video. See you in the next video. I hope you got a little bit of understanding. Is like objects are objects, objects are also functions. Functions are functions, and the functions are also objects. Arrays are arrays, but arrays are also objects. So like everything is in JavaScript is like objects.